Russell's already alluded to this problem, but when we really get down to it, since Matthew and Luke, by most people's reckoning, lift their material by and large from Mark, what we get here when we start talking about so-called independent lines of information is Mark. And then perhaps Paul, although Paul's not claiming to have given an eyewitness report. Paul's giving a second-hand report too. So the actual number of sources here is actually very, very small. It strikes me as very relevant, and for a number of reasons. We'll get to that in a second, perhaps. When you do look at the accounts, you get radical, really serious inconsistencies between the different accounts. There's one angel present in one story, there's two angels in another. Jesus is there in one of them, he's not there in another one of the gospel accounts. The tomb's empty, or it's not empty. Mary's there by herself, and then she's there with others in another account. She tells the disciples, or she doesn't tell the disciples. She runs away and hides. Striking differences when you line up the sort of passages from the four Gospels and look and say, okay, so what exactly do I know about the resurrection? Well, I'm getting some very, some surprisingly different accounts of what happened from these different sources, which raises real, legitimate questions about it. The ending, of course, of Mark, it turns out, I was quite shocked to find this out, that as I understand it, the way Bible scholars say this now, is that the ending of Mark that you know in your Bible, that starts with 16, is it 920? I guess that's right. Yeah, that's right. Was added later, as much as 150 years later. And that's the whole account about the resurrection and about what Jesus did when he came back. So now we're talking about the event allegedly happening in 35, and then well into the 200s, you're getting a first written account by most people's reckonings of what happened when this person is said to have come back from the dead. All right, copy of problems I'll skip for the time being, because I think at that level there's more issues. One quick point to Russell, one of the most direct points I have to say about Russell's account is, look at my last bullet there. One of the problems here with the canonization issue is that it's very difficult to take materials that have been carefully groomed for centuries for the specific purpose of propagating the resurrection story. This is a story where that was the point. They deliberately took all of these works and winnowed them down to the gospel accounts to tell the resurrection story. And then when we fail to find evidence in them, which is partly what Russell's doing, is saying, well look, it doesn't make sense when you look at the passages, it doesn't make sense given their behavior and this and that. You don't find evidence for some other account there, and then you proclaim the resurrections have been validated. Well, the deck has been stacked here, right? The deck has been stacked to tell a certain story. So are you surprised to find that story there? No, we shouldn't be surprised. But we shouldn't think that that's the whole story. Canonization problems. Texas sharpshooter fallacy is the sort of question I've just been raising, called the Jesus sharpshooter, if you like. That the Texas sharpshooter shoots his gun at a barn and then goes over and draws a circle around it and says, look, I'm a perfect marksman. Right, so with the canonization question, here's the problem you've got, right? You carve out this story and then you exclude all the others and go, look at this remarkable story, look how consistent it is, and look at what it says, right? And look at all the evidence we've got for this story. Well, given that we've stacked it up, set it up that way. I'd love to talk about the Salem witch trial problem, but I'll skip it for now. So here's what happens. When you accumulate all of these layers of questions, some of which I haven't talked about, they add up to a lot of very serious, in fact, I think a couple of these by themselves are debilitating. A couple of these are enough by themselves to get you to this problem. The historical evidence is too poor for me to reasonably conclude that the resurrection of Jesus happened. All right, I'll stop there and maybe pick up some more in the responses.